Every fast food employee has a story they can't tell their friends because no one would believe them. Well, we found 55 of those stories. These aren't just minor annoyances. They are the baffling, hilarious, and sometimes terrifying complaints that happen when a customer's logic has completely left the building. 1. Some complaints are so bizarre they seem to challenge the very fabric of reality. Case in point, a customer at a major fast food chain filed a formal complaint because their ice was too cold. You heard that, right? It forces you to wonder what the desired alternative could possibly be. Lukewarm, vaguely solid water cubes? Perhaps? The entire purpose of ice, its one and only job in that beverage, is to be cold. This is like complaining that the sun is too bright, or that fire is, a bit on the hot side. 2. A woman reportedly called a KFC to complain that her bucket of chicken had bones in it. She was genuinely shocked and appalled to discover that the fried chicken pieces were, in fact, parts of an actual chicken, an animal that famously comes equipped with a skeletal structure. You have to wonder what she thought she was eating. Was she expecting boneless chickens to be roaming the fields? It's a level of detachment from where food comes from that is both hilarious and slightly terrifying. 3. An adult man, in a clear attempt to save $1, ordered a kid's meal. A few minutes later, he was back at the counter, complaining with a straight face that the portion size was ridiculously small and that it wasn't enough food to feed a grown man. He was lodging a formal complaint about a product performing the exact function it was designed for, furious that his life hack of ordering a child's meal didn't magically yield an adult-sized portion for a child's price. 4. This one is a classic of the genre. A man stormed back into a Burger King, slammed his tray on the counter, and furiously demanded to know why they didn't have the McRib. The teenage cashier, probably on his 4th hour of a soul-crushing shift, had to gently explain that the McRib is a McDonald's product. The man was not having it, accusing them of false advertising, despite there being no ads for the McRib anywhere in the Burger King. It's a bold strategy, trying to manifest a sandwich from a rival chain through sheer anger. 5. Here's a complaint forged in the fires of social media vanity. A young woman demanded a different table in an almost empty Taco Bell. Her reason? The harsh overhead lighting at her current table was unflattering and was preventing her from taking the perfect Instagram photo of her Crunchwrap Supreme. She wasn't there to eat. She was there to perform the act of eating for an online audience. And she complained that the restaurant's standard-issue fluorescent lighting was failing its duty as her personal photography studio. Have we reached the point where restaurants need to list Instagrammability as a feature? 6. Picture this. A man orders a diet soda every single day with his value meal. After a month, he returns to the restaurant to complain that he hasn't lost any weight. He genuinely believed that the word diet in Diet Coke was a magical incantation that would neutralize the calories from the double cheeseburger, large fries, and apple pie he was consuming alongside it. He didn't want a refund. He wanted an explanation for why the magic wasn't working. 7. A man at a Coca-Cola freestyle machine, the ones with over 100 flavor combinations, spent 5 minutes creating a bizarre mix of Pib Extra, Minute Maid lemonade, and Seagram's ginger ale. After one sip of his swamp-colored creation, he stormed to the counter to complain that the machine had produced a disgusting beverage. He blamed the machine's overwhelming and confusing options for his own poor decision-making, as if the device should have a feature that stops you from making terrible life choices. 8. We've all seen someone grab a few extra sauce packets, but this was a declaration of war. A woman loaded her tray with over 40 packets of Polynesian sauce for a single order of nuggets. When the manager politely said there was a limit, she erupted. She claimed that since the sauce was freely available, any attempt to limit her was theft. She argued the sauces were an integral part of the meal she paid for, and that she required a 20-to-1 sauce-to-nugget ratio to properly enjoy her food. 9. A 911 call was once placed by a woman who was stuck in a Wendy's drive-thru line. Her emergency wasn't a medical issue or a crime in progress. She was angry that the car in front of her was taking too long to order, and she was going to be late for an appointment. She literally asked the dispatcher to send an officer down to tell the person to hurry up. Using emergency services as your personal hurry up and order your Baconator squad is a new level of entitlement. 10. A customer at a major burger chain lodged a formal complaint because their order came out too fast. I'm not kidding. Their logic dictated that if the food was ready in under 2 minutes, it couldn't possibly be fresh and must have been sitting under a heat lamp for hours, aging like a fine cheese. They were fundamentally complaining about the fast part of fast food. What was the desired outcome here? Did they want the cashier to hand them a raw patty and a potato so they could verify the freshness themselves? It's the ultimate lose-lose for the employees. Serve it slow and you're incompetent. Serve it fast and you're a culinary conspirator. 11. A furious customer once demanded to speak to a manager about their plain cheeseburger. When the manager arrived, the customer pointed an accusatory finger at the burger, which consisted of a patty and a slice of cheese inside a bun, and nothing else. The problem? It had cheese on it. The customer insisted that plain meant absolutely nothing but meat and bread. When the manager explained that they had ordered a cheeseburger, the customer retorted, "I said make it plain," as if the word plain had the power to vaporize the cheese from its own name. 12. Imagine the scene. A packed McDonald's during the lunch rush. A customer, after receiving their Big Mac, requests to speak to the manager. Not because the order is wrong, but because they have a question about ingredient sourcing. They proceed to ask the flustered manager, who is trying to keep the line moving, if the beef in their Big Mac is 100% grass-fed and what the provenance of the lettuce is. They were genuinely appalled to learn that the restaurant couldn't provide a farm-to-table history for their $3 burger, accusing the chain of not being transparent. This is the epitome of applying a 5-star restaurant mindset to a place that measures service time in seconds. 13. A Dunkin' Donuts. In 2018 introduced a ghost pepper donut for Halloween, explicitly marketing it as fiery and dangerously spicy. A man bought one, took a massive bite, and then immediately called the store to complain that it was, in fact, incredibly spicy. He was genuinely outraged that the product lived up to its name, as if the words ghost pepper were just a whimsical suggestion. It's a special kind of cognitive dissonance to willingly touch the stove and then blame the stove for being hot. 14. A woman at an Arby's was reportedly furious after unwrapping her beef and cheddar sandwich. Her issue wasn't the taste or the temperature, it was the cheese sauce. She held up the sandwich, which had a river of golden cheese cascading down the sides of the roast beef, and complained that it was too messy. She insisted that the cheese should have stayed perfectly contained within the bun's perimeter, as if it were a solid object. She was essentially demanding that a liquid cheese sauce defy the laws of gravity. What's the dumbest food expectation you've ever heard of? 15. The concept of free refills was apparently too complex for one gentleman. For weeks, he would come into a restaurant with a crumpled, clearly ancient paper cup from a previous visit and try to get a free soda. When he was finally told that refills are only for the duration of one's meal, he became irate. He argued that the word free has no time limit and accused the establishment of running a bait-and-switch scheme. He truly believed he had discovered a loophole for infinite, lifelong soda. 16. A pizza place that offers a square, party-cut style of pizza received a complaint from a customer who was horrified to discover that some of the pieces had no crust on them. They were referring, of course, to the center pieces. The customer felt cheated out of the crust experience and demanded a refund for the defective slices. You have to admire someone who looks at a simple geometric necessity and sees a personal financial attack. It's not a flaw, it's just a square. 17. Loyalty is a one-way street for some people. A customer complained to a manager that the drive-thru employee who took his order was impersonal and cold. The manager was confused, as the employee had been perfectly polite. The customer then clarified, "I come here 3 times a week. She should know my name and my order by now. He was genuinely offended that the minimum wage employee didn't have a photographic memory for every customer who passed her window, expecting the kind of personalized recognition you'd get at a private country club. 18. In a Southern-themed fast food chain, a woman ordered a side of Texas toast and was completely underwhelmed. She marched to the counter holding the 2 pieces of thick, buttery toasted bread and complained, "This is just bread." The employee confirmed, "Yes, it's Texas toast." The woman, getting more agitated, repeated, "But it's just bread. What makes it from Texas?" She seemed to be expecting the toast to arrive wearing a tiny cowboy hat, or perhaps yodeling. 19. Picture a chaotic fast food dining room during the lunch rush. A customer approached the counter and demanded a 50% discount on their entire meal. The reason? A baby at another table across the restaurant was crying, and it had ruined the ambiance of their dining experience. They were treating their $10 meal at a plastic table as if it were a Michelin star affair, and they believed they were entitled to financial compensation for the emotional distress caused by a completely unrelated toddler. 20. This one might be the pinnacle of misunderstanding the nature of food. A customer ordered a bowl of chicken noodle soup and sent it back, stating that it was too wet. The kitchen staff was stumped. The manager went out to ask for clarification, and the customer explained that they thought it would be more like a casserole and that the high broth-to-ingredient ratio was unacceptable. They were essentially lodging a formal complaint against the very definition of soup. 21. A woman with a self-proclaimed severe peanut allergy ordered a chocolate peanut butter milkshake and then had the audacity to complain that it contained peanuts. She demanded the restaurant pay for her allergy medication, accusing them of negligence. The staff was left speechless, pointing to the menu where the item was clearly listed under a peanut butter lovers section. It was the equivalent of someone with a dairy allergy ordering extra cheese and then blaming the restaurant for the consequences. 22. The holiday season brings out a special kind of crazy. A customer in mid-January complained that his coffee cup featured the standard company logo instead of the festive holiday edition cup. He was genuinely upset, stating that the lack of a cartoon reindeer on his cup had ruined the winter aesthetic of his morning commute. The coffee was identical, the price was the same, but the experience was shattered because the disposable packaging wasn't sufficiently whimsical for his liking. 23. Have you ever felt personally victimized by an excess of generosity? One customer did. They wrote a 1-star review for a chicken restaurant because the employee put a criminally excessive amount of napkins in their bag. They weren't concerned about a mistake. They were launching a full-blown crusade against wastefulness from the driver's seat of their SUV. The review went on to calculate the potential environmental damage caused by this single, over-enthusiastic employee, positioning them as a greater threat to the rainforest than illegal logging. 24. We've all been disappointed by a skimpy sandwich, but one customer at a deli had the opposite problem. They ordered a regular-sized sub and received one that was overflowing with meat, a clear mistake in their favor. Instead of being grateful, they filed a complaint for receiving an intimidating and frankly gluttonous amount of meat that deviated from the standard. They were upset about getting a better value for their money. How do you even begin to process a complaint about excessive generosity? 25. At a Subway, a customer meticulously watched as their sandwich was being made. After it was perfectly wrapped, they took one bite and then demanded a new one because the sandwich artist had put the pickles on top of the lettuce instead of directly on the meat. They claimed this sequence completely ruined the structural integrity and flavor profile of the sandwich. This wasn't just a picky eater. This was a sandwich conspiracy theorist who believed in a specific, sacred order of operations for condiments. 26. In many cities, fast food chains are now required by law to display calorie counts on their menus. A customer ordered and ate a massive combo meal, double bacon cheeseburger, large fries, the works. On his way out, he noticed the calorie total for his meal displayed on the menu board. nearly 1,500 calories. He then stormed back to the counter to demand a refund. His reason? The restaurant had ruined his day by forcing him to see how unhealthy his choice was. He wasn't complaining about the food. He was complaining about the information. He genuinely felt he was entitled to a refund for the emotional distress caused by the restaurant, simply displaying the facts. 27. A cashier asked a customer the standard question, "Would you like to round up your total for charity?" The customer didn't just decline, they demanded to see a manager. Their complaint? The restaurant was using emotional blackmail and putting them on the spot with a moral pop quiz that ruined their meal. They weren't just refusing to help a children's hospital, they were complaining about the very existence of the question, framing themselves as the ultimate victim. 28. One of the most bizarre architectural complaints came from a man in a massive lifted pickup truck. He complained to a fast food manager that the drive-thru window was discriminatorily low and that he had to strain his arm to reach his food. He suggested that the entire building should be renovated to better accommodate his specific vehicle choice. He wasn't just ordering a burger, he was demanding a complete structural overhaul for his convenience. 29. A grown man in his 40s reportedly became visibly upset at a Burger King when his Whopper meal didn't come with a paper crown. The cashier politely explained that they are typically for kids, but the man insisted that as the king, the restaurant had a brand obligation to provide a crown to any customer who desired one. He wasn't joking. He was genuinely offended by the lack of a flimsy paper hat, viewing it as a deep personal and corporate betrayal. 30. Mobile ordering has created new monsters of entitlement. A customer placed an order from their car in the parking lot, walked inside, and was livid their food wasn't instantly waiting. Their complaint? The app's GPS should have tracked their approach and timed the order to be ready the very second they entered the building. They weren't just angry about a short wait, they were angry the restaurant hadn't mastered precognitive cooking. 31. Safety is apparently just a suggestion for some people. After an employee mopped up a spill, they placed a bright yellow "Caution wet floor" sign nearby. A customer immediately demanded to speak to a manager to have the sign removed. Their reason? Its aggressive yellow color and general ugliness were an eyesore that was ruining the ambiance of their meal. They weren't slipping, they were just aesthetically offended. This person was willing to risk a public liability lawsuit and potential injuries to themselves and others, all because a safety sign clashed with the decor of a fast food restaurant. 32. A customer at a coffee shop complained that their extra hot latte was, in fact, extra hot. They were upset that they couldn't immediately start chugging it like a glass of iced tea and burned their tongue. The barista had literally delivered exactly what was ordered. This is the human equivalent of touching a wet paint sign and then getting angry that you have paint on your hands. Some problems are entirely self-inflicted, yet somehow, it's always the barista's fault. 33. Gift cards are a minefield of entitlement, but this one is special. A customer tried to pay with a gift card that was over a year expired. When the system predictably declined it, they didn't just get upset. They accused the cashier of personally stealing their money. Their argument was that the money was physically on the card, and the expiration date was just an illegal corporate scam designed to steal it back. They simply could not grasp that the card was a placeholder for a promise that had a time limit. In their worldview, they weren't irresponsible. The restaurant was a criminal enterprise that had just pulled off a $25 heist. 34. We all know the universal joke. The McDonald's ice cream machine is always broken. Well, one customer's entire reality was shattered when they went to order a McFlurry, and the machine was actually working. They complained to the manager that the sudden availability was suspicious and unsettling. They had mentally prepared for disappointment, and the sudden, unexpected success of the transaction threw them into a state of genuine confusion and mistrust. It was a complaint against competency. 35. A family was incredibly upset with their McDonald's Happy Meal. The complaint? The toy included was from a movie their child hadn't seen yet. They accused the corporation of trying to spoil the movie's plot through a small plastic figurine that probably had about 3 points of articulation. They weren't mad about the quality or safety of the toy, but about its potential to ruin a cinematic experience. You just know these are the people who leave 1-star reviews for books because the mailman bent the cover. 36. The drive-thru speaker is a tool for speed, but one customer saw it as their personal culinary hotline. Instead of ordering, they asked the employee, "What are you in the mood for?" When the employee gave a quick, standard answer, the customer became angry. They demanded a passionate, in-depth analysis of the menu options, asking follow-up questions like, "But how does that sauce really make you feel?" They were furious that the teenager on the other end wasn't acting as their personal food therapist, curating a bespoke meal based on their shared emotional state. They weren't just ordering food, they were seeking a deep, spiritual connection with the person on the headset, and they complained about the lack of it. 37. A customer at a fast casual restaurant that prided itself on using fresh ingredients ordered their 100% freshly squeezed orange juice. After one sip, she marched to the counter and demanded a refund. Her complaint? The orange juice tasted weird and sour. When the manager assured her it was squeezed from fresh oranges that very morning, the woman scoffed and said, "Well, it's wrong. It tastes nothing like the Minute Maid I get at the store. You guys should really figure out how to make it taste like real orange juice." She was genuinely complaining that a natural, fresh product was defective because it didn't taste like the processed, from concentrate version she considered the gold standard. 38. This is a new frontier in customer paranoia. A man watched an employee wash their hands and then demanded that a different employee make his sandwich. Why? He claimed the first employee had used an excessive amount of soap and didn't rinse thoroughly enough, and he was concerned about chemical contamination from the soap residue. He wasn't a health inspector. He was just a guy who had appointed himself the guardian of the kitchen, creating health code violations out of thin air. 39. Closing time is a suggestion, not a rule, according to one man. He arrived at a restaurant 2 minutes after it had closed, rattling the locked door. The staff, busy cleaning up, informed him they were closed. He then proceeded to call the store's phone number from the parking lot to complain to the manager, who was standing right inside the door, that his staff was refusing to serve a paying customer. He believed his desire for a late-night taco should legally require the entire staff to stay late and reopen the kitchen just for him. 40. Over at Taco Bell, a customer was furious that their hard-shell taco cracked and fell apart when they bit into it. They demanded a refund for what they called a defective product, as if they were expecting a taco shell forged with aerospace-grade carbon fiber, completely impervious to human teeth. Sir, that's not a defect. That's the taco experience. The messy, crumb-dropping, filling on your lap experience is part of the charm. It's a feature, not a bug. 41. Some customers aren't just ordering food. They're offering unsolicited and frankly insane business consulting. A man complained to a manager that the drive-thru lane was inefficiently designed. He proceeded to pull out a napkin on which he had sketched a new, optimal layout for the entire parking lot, complete with traffic circles and a dedicated lane for high-value customers like himself. He was genuinely offended that decades of corporate logistical planning hadn't considered his genius napkin-based blueprint. 42. Here's a complaint from someone who was apparently shocked to discover that food is made from other food. A woman ordered a side of onion rings and, after dissecting one, brought it to the counter in horror. "There's a whole onion in here," she exclaimed, as if she had uncovered a corporate conspiracy. She thought onion rings were made from a kind of ring-shaped, onion-flavored batter, not an actual slice of a vegetable. She was complaining that the product was too authentic. 43. A fast food restaurant is not a co-working space, but don't tell that to one customer. He set up a full laptop, took a loud business call on speakerphone, and then complained to the staff about the unprofessional noise level from other customers and the kitchen. He was furious that the lunch rush was interrupting his conference call, and he demanded the manager ask other patrons to keep it down so he could work. He had successfully mistaken a public restaurant for his own private, fully catered office. 44. The concept of buy one, get one free is apparently a source of great confusion. A woman went to a donut shop with a BOGO coupon and asked for just one donut. When the cashier charged her the full price for the single donut, she became irate. She demanded they sell her one donut for half price instead, arguing that it was the same amount of money for the business. She simply could not comprehend that the deal was designed to move two items, not to give a 50% discount on one. What's the most baffling interpretation of a coupon you've ever witnessed? 45. No good deed goes unpunished. An employee noticed a customer struggling to manage a large order and a couple of small children. The employee quickly grabbed a tray to help them carry everything to their table. The customer's response wasn't gratitude, it was suspicion. They complained that the employee's hands, which had just touched money at the register, had now contaminated the tray, and by extension, their food, demanding the entire order be remade. 46. Digital coupons have created a whole new battlefield. A man tried to use a coupon on his phone that was clearly dated as having expired 3 weeks ago. When the scanner rejected it, he didn't blame himself for being late. He blamed the restaurant for having a faulty scanner and argued with the manager that since the coupon was still visible on his phone's screen, it should be considered digitally active. He was essentially complaining that reality wasn't conforming to what his unrefreshed web browser was telling him. 47. Here, we have a complaint from a self-appointed health inspector with a very specific obsession. A customer watched an employee remove their disposable gloves, throw them away, and put on a fresh pair to make his sandwich. The customer then stopped him and demanded a different employee. His reason? The worker hadn't washed their hands in the split second between taking off the old gloves and putting on the new ones, and had therefore contaminated the outside of the clean gloves with microscopic germs from their own hands. Is this a legitimate health concern or the definition of paranoia? 48. The self-serve condiment station is a place of trust, and that trust was violated. A customer, attempting to get ketchup, managed to create a Jackson Pollock painting on the counter, the floor, and their own shirt. They then marched to the manager, not to apologize, but to complain about the dangerously high-pressure ketchup dispenser. They demanded free cleaning supplies for their shirt and a replacement meal for the one ruined by the restaurant's faulty equipment. 49. Fast food restaurants are a symphony of beeps and buzzers. But for one customer, it was a concert from hell. They complained that the persistent, high-pitched beeping from the deep fryer timer was disrupting their tranquil dining experience and giving them anxiety. They were sitting in the heart of a high-volume, system-driven kitchen environment and expected the serene ambiance of a day spa. They didn't just want a meal. They wanted a zone of absolute silence for their $3 burger. 50. In a stunning display of reverse logic, a customer in a drive-thru ordered a cheeseburger with no cheese. The employee correctly rang it up as a hamburger, which was slightly cheaper. Upon reaching the window and seeing the receipt, the customer became furious. They insisted they had ordered a cheeseburger and demanded they be charged the higher price. They didn't want the cheese, but they absolutely had to have the name, as if the word cheeseburger itself had a superior flavor. They were actively, passionately complaining about being charged less money for the exact item they requested. 51. A customer at a popular sub shop ordered a toasted sandwich. When he received it, he unwrapped it and immediately complained that they had ruined it. His logic was flawless in his own mind. He wanted the bread toasted, but the meat and cheese inside to remain completely cold and unmelted. He expected the employees to have some kind of magical toaster that could defy the laws of thermodynamics for his specific sandwich. At what point does a special request just become a prank on the staff? 52. This next complaint is a masterpiece of irony. A customer in a Five Guys, a place famous for the scent of grilling burgers and fresh-cut fries that hits you from a block away, complained that the smell was overpowering. They weren't allergic. They just found the aroma of the very food they had come to eat distracting and unappetizing. This is the equivalent of going to a rock concert and complaining that the music is too loud. They wanted to enjoy their burger in a scent-neutral vacuum, a feat that would defy the very laws of physics. 53. Get ready for a complaint that breaks the fourth dimension. A customer finished their entire meal, walked up to the counter, and demanded a partial refund. Their reasoning: while the portion size was adequate for now, they could accurately predict that they would be hungry again in approximately 3 to 4 hours, and they felt the restaurant was responsible for this inevitable future discomfort. They were essentially trying to get a discount on a past transaction to compensate for a future biological certainty. 54. Some people believe they are uncredited culinary geniuses. A customer once casually told a cashier, "You know what you guys should do? Put the spicy fries inside the burrito." Months later, the chain launched a limited-time fiery potato burrito. The original customer returned, brandishing a printout of the ad, and accused the cashier of stealing his idea and feeding it to corporate. He wasn't just annoyed. He was lodging a formal complaint of intellectual property theft. He demanded free food for life as his royalty payment. 55. A complaint against the concept of choice itself. After finishing their meal, a customer told the manager the menu offered too many options, which had caused them debilitating decision anxiety. They weren't unhappy with their food. They were unhappy they had to choose it in the first place. They demanded a discount as compensation for the emotional distress caused by being given free will. These stories aren't just funny. They're a window into the human psyche when it's hungry and entitled. But let's be honest, we've all felt that spark of frustration. What's the closest you've ever come to becoming one of the people in this video? I want the full, unapologetic story in the comments. If you're on the side of reason, give this video a like and subscribe for more exhibits.